Thank you, Ashley. Like I told you, I'm never going to live down the ballroom dancing thing, but we will. Stay tuned because there's something ahead of us around not maybe ballroom, but a little bit of something else. As Ashley mentioned, my name is Kemi Akinsanya-Rose. I go by the pronouns she, her, and ella. Many people have asked me about this dress. This dress was actually brought to me by my father from Nigeria. So I actually go by the pronoun she, her, ella, but I also identify as a Nigerian American. My father, mother met here in the 60s at University of Wisconsin-Madison. Where am I, Wisconsin? Woo, 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 Badger. They got married, and here I am. But my father goes back home every summer, and he brought this back for me. So I'm very grateful to him, and actually I'd love to dedicate this message to both my parents, who are both educators. They've been principals, teachers, superintendents, and they've also taught at the higher ed level. So Doctors Sherry and Adeyemi Akinsanya, or Doc A, as many of their students called them. So today, I want to talk to you about paying attention. Ashley, I love your intro because it folds right into this chat. What my hope of today is to really share some of the insights I've learned over many, many years of working, not necessarily just working at work, working as a mom, as a wife, as a sister, as a caregiver, and the titles I'm sure can go on and on and on. But really wanted to pause first and talk about the world we're living in today. Many of you might have heard the term VUCA. We're living in a VUCA world. Actually, my VUCA does not line up here, but VUCA, when I think about today, I think of the fast-paced world that we live in. I live in New York area, but I was raised in the Midwest. Every time I go home, I actually love that people look me in the eye and say hello, because that doesn't happen on the subway in New York. But more and more time that goes by, I see how we're moving in this fast-paced moment. When you think about, somebody asked me, like, what did you do yesterday? I'm like, I actually don't even know what I did yesterday. How many people? Like, what did I do yesterday? And I talked to my friends, and I'm like, I think we're living while sleeping. I'm going to say it again. We are living while sleeping. Meaning, in my own words, I've found myself living not consciously, going through the motions and just trying to get by. And with that said, my invitation to all of you is not to try and just get by, but to think about, how do you pay attention? Or how do you pay more attention? And what are we paying attention to? How do we pay more attention to our body? How do we pay more attention to our energy? I'll talk more about that. And Ashley queued this up beautifully. How do we pay more attention to our purpose? So I'm going to tell you a story. My favorite breakfast item is pancakes. Pancakes, maybe at the Cracker Barrel or at IHOP, you name it. Maybe I'll make it at home and throw some chocolate chips on it or whatever else. So I love pancakes, my favorite meal of the day. My other favorite thing to do over the past year or so was watch my daughter play volleyball. So my daughter, Jordana, is on the left-hand side here with her friend Maddie. And we go all over the country and we watch volleyball and her playing it. And you're probably like, well, what the heck does that, what do those two things have in common? Well, my pancake moment looks like this. So this is a volleyball move. It's called a pancake because you're sliding, and what's happening? You're barely trying to pick the ball up off the floor. And that was my life for a very long time. My life was balls coming over the net, me feeling that either I had to pancake them out, maybe I could do I don't know, what is this called? A bump. Sometimes I would set, right? And sometimes I would try and spike it back over. And what was happening? Balls kept on coming over and over and over, and I could not get a breath. And last of all, my balls were coming back over, but guess what? Other people's balls were coming over, and they expected me to get a pancake for them. Does that resonate with anybody? Okay. So my pancake moment really was about paying attention to my body. As I was pancaking, as I was bumping, as I was setting, as I was spiking, I was not paying attention to my body. Everything that Ashley just mentioned about haircuts, doctor's appointments, breathing, lunch, breakfast, dinner, I wasn't paying attention to that. And I would say that the purpose of us being here today, and thank you, Marilyn, for the honor of being in this room, in this resort, and paying attention to our bodies, we get these moments. But my invitation to you is, how do you get more of these moments? And it's not just about making your mammogram appointment or your doctor's appointment, is what I'm saying. It's about making the micro moments of paying attention to your body. And what I've learned in my life, just a little story, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2001 after 9/11, living in New York City. Pretty crazy time with 9/11, as you can only imagine. And I've lived with it, knock on wood, for 22 years. But there was a time in my life where I was in a role where we were facing a fiscal crisis. Our board was a mess. You know, we barely could make payroll. We didn't know what the vision of the organization was going to be. I'm sure you've all faced those crises, right? And I wasn't paying attention to a point where my body was getting beat up. Whether it's getting beat up by our board, and I'm watching this. I was trying to find Play-Doh, by the way. It's a tragic moment. There is no Play-Doh in any stores that I found. I got clay. So think of your body as clay. And my body was doing this. I was getting hit from left and right. And think of your body as imprints, as you're going through work and life. Things are being transferred to your body. You're picking up things. And if you don't figure out what your body's shape should or can be, and don't pay attention to the shape it is, it really could do some damage. And so this was me in 2016 when I was not paying attention to my body. So my invitation to you is do all the things that Ashley mentioned, but do one thing in particular. Practice letting go. When's the last time you've let go? What is the feeling of letting go? When you think about volleyball, the ball's coming over, how do I let go? What happens? It drops on the floor. Now I'm not saying drop all the balls on the floor. The wisdom is to figure out what balls can drop and what balls do you need to pancake, what balls are not yours to return. And so that's my invitation for you to think about a little bit more. So we talked about the body. The next thing is energy. So before, I think two titles ago or two organizations ago, I was an executive coach. I had this amazing client. His name was Idris. He was a Jamaican gay man, entrepreneur, who had come along really hard times. He had lost his job and had been underemployed or unemployed for the past 2 years. Idris wanted my help to help him do a turnaround. I started coaching him, and I talked to my mentor coach, and I said, gosh, every time I get off the phone with Idris, I feel exhausted. Why is that? My coach was Jan. Jan's like, well, tell me more about, not confidentially, tell me what's happening. And I talked to her about his negative self-talk. How many of us have done negative self-talk? So the negative self-talk, she told me, Jan, my peer coach, she's like, when that's happening, think about the energy transfer. And so just think about that. The people that you're around, there's energy transfer going on all the time. And so my invitation to you is really think about your energy. How are you showing up for others, and how are others around you transferring their energy onto you, going back to the clay? So when I noticed, the next time I had a session with Idris, I'm like, well, what's happening here in terms of energy transfer? And I noticed as I was trying to help him think about his own negative self-talk and get out of that vicious cycle, that I was taking on his energy. And so I had to really be thinking about how to create almost like a barrier to either bounce it off, or have it just go through me. But how could I help this person and help myself with energy transfer? And so one of the things I would invite you to think about, and this is one of the cues I gave to my coachees, is think about every day, what drains your energy and what brings you energy? So what drains your energy and what brings you energy? And this may not be only at work, this could be outside of work. I've had my clients do that for 7 days, journal, 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 and then we talk about what are the trends you saw about what drained your energy? What are the trends that you saw around what energized you? What brought you joy? And so that's another invitation. Last of all, purpose. I was working at American Express for many, many years, loved the organization. This was the year of the recession of 2008. I remember walking in, I don't know, how many people know where the Winter Garden in downtown New York? Does anybody know of that spot? It's like this beautiful place with palm trees inside, and you walk up to it. Well, I always walked in there after I got off the PATH train. I would walk up to this beautiful Winter Garden and be hopefully happy to go to work. I wasn't happy to go to work, and I remember sitting there thinking at a point in time, who am I? Like, who am I and who have I become? And you're probably like thinking, like, well, what does that mean? What I'd like you to think about is when my mother, Kemi Akinsanya-Rose, gave birth to me, you think about a child being socialized throughout their lives. I found myself being socialized, by my parents, number one, and then you go to school, and then you get socialized there. Then you turn into young adult, maybe you go to college or into your first career, you get socialized there. What I found in my life is that I lost myself in parts of that socialization process. And my invitation to you is really think about, who am I deep down? When I walked up to that Winter Garden that day, I was so masked up of what people told me I should be versus who I really was. I don't know how many masks. And so the question for you is, how many masks are you wearing? And what do you need to unmask? Because I don't want to be an Oscar award-winning actress anymore. It was exhausting. I was good at it, right? It might have got me the promotion. It might have gotten me whatever else, a new project. I did not want to be the Oscar award-winning actress. And so I had to take a really hard look around unmasking and coming back to my authentic self. And the question I have for you is, when you come back to yourself, what is your EPQ? Essential positive quality. What is your essential positive quality? And I think somebody actually asked that question too, so it's so funny. I feel like we share a brain. What I found to myself is I had turned into a hard, critical person that I didn't even know who I was anymore because of what, remember, the clay was doing to me. And I'm like, I'm not that person. I'm not that person. But until you pay attention, you don't even know you're in it, because society and all the pressures around you are giving you indications that you need to be somebody that maybe you're not. And so when I thought about my EPQ, my husband told me, he's like, well, what are our goals this year? We need to make our goals. He's very much goal, goal, goal. I'm like, I'm not going to make any goals today. I'm not making goals. I'm going to have a theme, because my my EPQ is I'm loyal, I'm a dreamer, and I'm a creative. And I had not found that part of myself for such a long time. And actually, my husband and I had a really long conversation about not setting goals for the very first time in many, many years. I set a theme. We set a theme. And my theme was joy and adventure. That was my theme for the year. And what did I do? I took some risk. I learned how to ride a motorcycle. There's video, by the way. And I said to myself every day, if this is not bringing me some joy, I'm not saying that everything has to be joyful. If it's not bringing me joy, or if I'm not being adventurous or creative, I got to think about, do I really want to do this? And again, everything can't be rosy. I get it. There are some constraints, of course. But think about what your essential positive quality is. Think about what masks you're wearing. how you can unmask, and how do you get back to the real kind of naked part of who you are, given your purpose in life and what you want to do. So with that said, I will leave you with a couple things. The simplicity of paying attention. This little boy is my godson. His name is Antonino Garcia Hernandez. I took Antonino to the, what was it called? The paintball range, and he was dying to go. I was like, okay, I'll take you to the paintball range. He was whizzing in and out. He was diving up and down. And I was like, he came out, their team won. And I was like, how do you feel? How do you feel? And this is the picture we took together. And all I could think about is he's going to tell me about all his moves that he made and how he won and this and that. And he said, Auntie Kemi, I saw the most amazing butterfly. I saw the most amazing bee. And then I saw another caterpillar. I'm like, wow. All that chaos, all that fast-pacedness, all the complexity of the paintball game. This boy saw the simplicity of a butterfly, a caterpillar, and a bee, because he was paying attention. And so how can we be more channel Antonino is what I would leave you with. And my last thing is, when we think about purpose, we all have dreams. This is, sometimes I think as adults we forget to dream. And so I would hope and invite you to think about, what is the dream you have for yourself? This is a quote from one of my favorite poets, Nayira Wahid. And my hope for you is that my dream of you is not bigger than the dream you have of yourself.